Right, so we got Anna and Cenk once again talking about violence in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria, and how Israel is pushing for expansion. Let's take a gander.
The most recent Secretary General report lays out a worsening picture. The UN says more than 1,100 Palestinians have been killed in the occupied West Bank since October 2023, and that settler attacks have never been higher, an average of 6 a day that bring death, injury, or damage.
So the settler attacks continue. They are vicious. They threaten to rape the wives and the daughters of the settlers. They urinate on Palestinians, beat them, kill them. And as this slaughter is happening, American media pretends not to notice. I have some amazing facts about that later in the story, and it will prove to you definitively 100% that American media is not in the news business. They're pure Israeli propaganda. I'm going to prove it to you. Now, meanwhile, there's actually good people in Israel, the human rights group B'Tselem, who has put out a report showing they're about to flood the West Bank and partition it in ways that are going to destroy the sovereignty of the West Bank and make sure the Palestinians can never be free. So we're going to show you that as well. So you're going to see in this video things you never see in mainstream media. And after we're done, I want you to ask yourself, how come they hid this from you? All right, Anna, go ahead.
Well, our media might attempt to hide what's really going on, but in reality, Israeli officials can't stop themselves from telling us exactly what they intend to do, and then they do it. So why don't we begin with a statement from Israel's finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, who just this week said the following of the West Bank.
Bezalel. Bezalel.
In the end, we will establish 103 settlements and 160 villages and pave roads and plan and regulate. We want to bring 1 million settlers to Judea and Samaria. He made that statement this week on Israel's Channel 14. Now, Haaretz is one of the only Israeli publications covering these atrocities every single day. And they recently put out some video about, what they have discovered through their reporting on what's transpiring in the West Bank. I want you to take a quick look at that.
The Israeli government approved 18 new settlements deep inside Palestinian territory. There are at least 8 new military bases. More than 30,000 people have been expelled from their homes. The potential for an explosion is enormous. Over the past 20 years, since Israel evacuated 4 settlements from the north and west bank, 700,000 Palestinians who live there have seen almost no settlers and accordingly less military. Now, Homesh, Sanur, Ganim, Kadim, the 4 isolated settlements evacuated during the 2005 disengagement are returning. But they are not alone. Netanyahu's government has approved 14 more settlements that fragment and tear apart the largest continuity of Palestinian communities in the West Bank. The military's new approach aligns with the long-term goals and aspirations of settlers who want to reverse the disengagement and return to those areas. Israeli cabinet ministers, like Defense Minister Israel Katz and Justice Minister Yariv Levin, regularly visit settlers and their leaders, who have become one of the most influential groups within Netanyahu's Likud party.
Now, here in America, unfortunately, there are these Israeli organizations who come and visit, and they hold these real estate sales in Jewish synagogues in places like Manhattan.
Yes, yeah. Judea and Samaria. Jew, Yahud, Judea. Yahud, Jew, Judea. We won the wars, and it's ours, and we can do whatever we want with it. That's how it works. The Arabs don't like it. They have 52, 56, 54, however many, over 50 countries. Israel's the size of New Jersey. You don't like it, Anna? Too bad. We can build wherever we want. Wherever we want. That's it. That's how it works. It's not that more complicated than that. I don't condone violence. I don't support violence of Israelis against Arabs, and I don't support, of course, Arabs against Jews. I do not like it. I wish it stopped. As far as empty land is concerned, people should be able to build wherever they damn well please. This is Jewish-ruled land. This is Israel. The Israeli government decides. This is the reality of it. It was never fair when Jews lived in the Muslim world. They were always second-class citizens. The Palestinians do not have citizenship of Israel. The reality here is it is either going to be ruled by Jews or it is going to be ruled by Muslims. Israel wants to make sure this does not become some nonsensical Palestinian state. The Palestinian cause is a farce, and this is what is required to have peace between the two groups. It is messy. It has a long way to go. But what Israel needs to do is it needs to annex the territory. It needs to annex Gaza. It needs to annex Judea and Samaria. I would like to see minorities live in peace. If they can't, they'll have to go somewhere else. These things absolutely need to be said. I hope at some point to be able to debate the two of them. I don't think it'll be very fruitful. I mean, it'll be fruitful for the listeners. I don't know about these two, but that is the reality.
Okay, and what they're selling are illegal settlements to Americans. And when protesters protest in front of these synagogues, which is where they choose to do these illegal land and real estate sales, our media makes the protesters out to be the bad guys, as if they're targeting synagogues simply because they're synagogues, which obviously is not true.
I just got to jump in. They actively lie to you.
Yeah.
They tell you, oh, these vicious Jew haters showed up to terrorize innocent Jewish people in their temples and synagogues. Now, look, guys, I don't like that kind of action overall because it creates too much hostility and I'm worried about it.
What, protesting in front of the synagogues?
Like the conflicts that it creates, and then the cops always come in and beat our side up, right? And then arrest them and do all sorts of stuff. Okay, but look, I get it. If you want to, this is disgusting stuff. So if you want to protest it, I'm not blaming you at all. I totally get it.
I 100% support it, just to be clear.
All right, but my point here isn't about whether you should or shouldn't do that protest. My point is the media actively lies to you and doesn't tell you that they were doing a sale of illegal settlements that are meant to rob and steal the Palestinian land.
They literally killed people, and for those who survived, ran them out of their own homes and their own land in order to build these illegal settlements. And these disgusting, evil people insist on doing the sale of the real estate inside synagogues in order to play this cutesy little trick, which our legacy media is in on, to demonize the protesters who, you know, have some moral issues with what's going on.
Do you get that they're using, again, for the billionth time, their religion as a shield?
Yes.
So like if they had it in a strip mall, people would go protest there and they don't want to protest. So they get to do this deeply evil thing of stealing people's land and then selling it.
Yep.
And then they're like, oh, once we put it in a synagogue and when people protest, we'll get the losers we bought in mainstream media to lie about it and pretend they attacked us for being Jewish.
So in the beginning of the assault on Palestinians, this is following October 7th, I think some of you guys can remember the Israeli government had provided all sorts of firearms to Israeli settlers in order to rain terror on Palestinians in the West Bank. Now, for those who might not know, the West Bank had
No, they gave weapons to Jews in Judea and Samaria because Judea and Samaria is an incredibly hostile place. And up until maybe a year to 2 years ago, you still had Tulkarm and Jenin, as well as Kalandia. You have, I mean, many villages and refugee camps that are swarming with militant fighters who have all kinds of weapons, IEDs, ram their cars into people, stab people. They give weapons to people that live in Judea and Samaria because they need them. The vast majority of Israelis that live in Judea and Samaria are not beating anybody up. If there are 7 to 750,000, the vast majority are not causing any physical harm to the Arabs that live in Judea and Samaria.
Nothing to do with October 7th at all. The West Bank, not governed by Hamas. But the Israelis used October 7th as an excuse to rain terror on the Palestinians in the West Bank, and they've been doing it ever since. And so it started off with them being given firearms. And then after that, would you look at this? Let's take a look at this next graphic. Now they're armed with even more advanced weaponry. As the Cradle reports, the Israeli government is now providing Jewish settlers in the occupied West Bank with drones. What you're seeing on your screen right now is a photo of Israeli settlers showing off their new government-approved, government-provided drones. Okay, rights groups and local sources say the drones are being used to fly at low altitude over Palestinian shepherds and farmers to scatter livestock, intimidate residents, and gather intelligence. Now, the Israelis have also been destroying infrastructure in the West Bank. I want you to take a look at the video right here, which shows the IDF. These aren't settlers. This is the IDF using D9 Caterpillars to rip apart Palestinian water infrastructure in the West Bank. These are supplied by the United States. These are manufactured in Illinois. Okay, and we give them to the IDF so they can go ahead and destroy water infrastructure in the West Bank, making way for Israeli settlers to come and steal that land. That is what we do.
Those are sick terrorists you're looking at right there. Destroying civilian infrastructure is a war crime, and there isn't any war. The West Bank didn't do anything to the Israelis, but the Israelis are slaughtering them and committing a genocide.
The West Bank didn't do anything to the Israelis. Nothing at all. Constant, just constant attacks. Constant attacks. It's an ugly thing. It's a dog-eat-dog, wild, wild west in Judea and Samaria. There's no doubt about it. The only reason why, though, these so-called Palestinians are not in a position of power right now is because the Israeli government understands that the only way to have control over this area and the only way to ensure safety in this area is by making sure that the Jews and the IDF have enough power to do so. Because I can assure you, if you took away the weapons and you took the IDF out of Judea and Samaria, the Jews of Judea and Samaria would be slaughtered. Slaughtered. And up until recently, really after October 7th, things started to quiet down from the Arab side. Because prior to October 7th, Judea and Samaria was a very dangerous place. I served there myself, and I can tell you that very, very confidently. So Cenk and Ana love to purport them. It's so crazy, though, how they purport them as such defenseless people. Oh, my God. It's a sad thing. It's a sad situation. There's no doubt. It's a fucked up, crazy cowboy piece of land. Like the whole Judea and Samaria is a crazy place. Israel needs to make sure that this territory is part of Israel. Because if what Cenk and Ana want to happen happens, Judea and Samaria goes to the Palestinian side, they create a state, and they start launching attacks from Judea and Samaria. This is what they'll do. It'll effectively become another Gaza, what Gaza was.
There anyway, because they are a vicious terrorist state who is trying to steal all of the land around them. And if you're a settler colony and you want to expand, there's only one way to expand: murder your neighbors and steal their land. That is exactly what Israel is doing, and our disgusting pig media sits there and pretends it's not happening. So
yeah. I have a few more details.
And by the way, you think they're not going to arm those drones? You think those terrorists aren't going to arm those drones and start murdering civilians at a more efficient pace? Come on. They're vicious religious lunatics. Of course they're going to arm them. They murder Palestinians every day.
So as Cenk had referenced earlier, the Israeli human rights organization known as B'Tselem has put out a new report in regard to the slaughter of children by Israeli settlers in the West Bank. And they write that over the course of 2 years and 8 months, from October 7th to June 7th of 2026, Israeli forces killed 235 Palestinian children and teenagers in the West Bank. 5 others were killed by settlers. In 2025 alone, the year that is the focus of this investigation, Israeli forces killed 54 Palestinian children and teenagers in the West Bank. And just to give you a comparison, okay, from the end of the Second Intifada on February 9th, 2005 to the end of 2021, almost 17 years, Israeli forces killed 194 Palestinian children and teenagers in the West Bank. So you're seeing how their slaughter campaign has really accelerated, especially in 2025. Now, those responsible do not try to hide this policy. Rather, they give it full systemic backing, as reflected in the remarks of Central Command Chief Avi Bluth, who publicly boasted that, quote, "We are killing like we haven't killed since 1967. They say it, guys. They just say it. They say it out loud. They brag about it. But if we acknowledge it, we're Jew haters, right?
Yeah, you know the rule. They're allowed to do it. They're allowed to say it. You're not allowed to say it. And if you do, the people pretending to news here will cover up the news and then blame you and say, "Oh, I can't believe you said something accurate about beloved Israel. Your career should be ruined and your life should be destroyed." But I don't work for Israel. I think you do. I think you very literally work for Israel, and I'm about to prove that in a second. But first, let's talk more about the slaughter. So a lot of Jewish Americans have this fantasy in their mind, partly because of the propaganda that Israel did when they were younger. They would bring them over and they show them a kibbutz, and they're like, "You see, this is Israel. You get to eat delicious hummus, and we go on a peaceful picnic in a kibbutz. Isn't this lovely?"
The birthright thing,
okay,
right?
and send me your money, Jewish Americans. Send me all your money. Okay, what they don't tell you and what they hide from you are the religious lunatics that are in the West Bank. Utter fanatical religious lunatics and inarguable. They all believe that it is Judea and Samaria, and that 3,000 years ago, God promised them this land. And they believe, not you guys, but they believe that they should murder the people on that land and take it because God told them. And
Your beloved leader Erdogan also believes that Turkey should take over Israel. When they're going to try to do it, tough to say. Does Erdogan believe that Israel should be destroyed on the basis of Islamic teaching? Yes. Do millions and millions of Muslims believe Israel should be destroyed because of Islam? Yes. Are they Islamic fanatics? Yes. Humans, to a large degree, suck. So the Jews shouldn't defend their land on the basis of religious belief, but the Muslims should be able to do so on the basis of their belief. Do you want to call all religions stupid? Go ahead and make the argument. But to insinuate that the Jewish beliefs of inheritance of the land is stupid, but Muslims effectively believing the same thing is not stupid. It's either equally stupid or neither of them are stupid. But it's really just two sides of the same coin.
hear all the time about, oh, Muslims are radicals and everyone has to denounce the Muslim radicals, right? Muslim radicals are 0.01% of 1.6.
No. They're definitely much higher than that. And there's also millions of radical Muslims. Millions, arguably, probably hundreds of millions. The majority of Jews in Israel, however, are secular. They don't have very deep religious beliefs at all. They have an identity of being Jews. They see themselves as ethnically Jewish. They practice traditions. They're not looking to build a third temple. Quite frankly, many of them wouldn't mind having two states if they actually believed it worked. But unfortunately, they have been shown, if they have half a brain in their head, that two states isn't an option. But if you think that most Israelis are fanatics, while believing that most Palestinians are not, you don't understand the reality of the region. And what Cenk would love to purport is that all Arabs are poor, stupid, and defenseless, and that the Jews are all smart, cunning, sly, and religiously driven. It's just not true. It's not true.
Billion Muslims in the world, right? Those settlers, they're about to put 1 million more into the West Bank. It is a giant percentage of the Israeli population.
No, they didn't say 1 million more. They said 1 million total, which would be another 200,000 or 250,000 more. Okay, so that's, and by the way, that would be great. 1 million more would be fantastic. It's Judea and Samaria. Period. You want to put all the Jews in there for all I care. Great. I'm not going to tell you not to put Turks in Ankara, and you sure as hell are not going to tell us whether we can put Jews in Judea and Samaria or not. I love how Cenk's like, I promised 3,000 years ago. Where do you think you say you? I don't know how many times you said the word Jew in this video, maybe 20 times. Where does the name Jew come from? The land, the literal swath of land you're talking about right now. It's very interesting that you want to disregard that Judea and Samaria is Jewish land when the literal word Jew comes from Judea. It's like the Saudis, the goal of the Saudis to try to take the land from the Aboriginals, or to take the land from the Nigerians. The Nigerians, it's Judea and Samaria is Nigerian land. How dare the Saudis fight for Saudi land? Imagine it was called. It's not imagine. If the Saudis did not have their full piece of land and Nigerians lived where the name Saud originates from, and Cenk has a problem with that, that would be the exact equivalence. There's no statute of limitations for when you can come back to your land. The Jewish people are the only people who actually did it. But there's no time period that says, oh, well, it's been too long not living in your land, so you can't come back. If the Native Americans managed to defeat us in war and gain the land back, that is what you want to say it's their right or not, you could make that argument. The reality is they fought the war, they won the war, and now it belongs to them. You want to say there's historical context? I would agree. Land belongs to whoever purchases it or conquers it. Period. End of story. That is how it works. It is how it has always worked, and it is how it will continue to work until the end of time. That's it. This is how it works.
That believe that God gave them the land, and they're allowed to slaughter anyone on it and steal it. A giant percentage of the Israeli citizens. So we're all kidding ourselves if we're pretending that's not the case. That is a fact. And you see the viciousness that they're doing. We showed you in earlier shows.
No, the vast majority of Israelis don't care that much about Judea and Samaria, actually. They just want Jews to rule it versus Arabs because they want to live in Israel proper without getting missiles shot at them. So if they have to choose who should rule it, yeah, they're going to choose their own people, obviously. But if you asked your average Israeli in most major cities, if they knew that giving the Arabs Judea and Samaria would actually bring peace, probably the majority of Israelis would sign on that. But you'd have to be an idiot to actually think that would work. Cenk would vote for that because, well, one or two reasons. He either thinks it would actually work, or he knows it wouldn't work, but he wants Israel dismantled. Probably the latter.
They're starting to lurk around the bathrooms in the West Bank so they could grab girls coming out of the bathrooms. And so sometimes they rape, sometimes they urinate on them just to teach the Palestinians a lesson. Now, why are they doing that? Is it gratuitous?
Because they're terrorists.
Partly because they're terrorists, and it is gratuitous, but mainly because they want to drive the Palestinians out. And what did they do in 1967 that guy just referred to? They attacked all of their neighbors. Then our media lied to us and said it was self-defense. That's not true at all. They started the wars. They destroyed the air force of all of their neighbors, and then they took their land. And they said they were going to give it back. And I love the peace deal they did with Egypt. I think they could do that deal right now. 57 Arab nations are ready to do a deal, give the Palestinians their land back. Okay, so we know peace can work, but they chose not to do that with the.
No. The only reason why it works with Egypt is because Egypt is a separate country, and Egypt is not at peace with Israel. Egypt is currently not fighting with Israel because they're getting enough money to shut up. And they've also been spanked enough times by Israel where they're not really trying to do it again. That was their call, and they're smart for doing that. Was it a good idea that Israel gave up the Sinai? No, I don't think it is, because it set a precedent that Israel will continue to get more land if they're pressured enough to do so. And that's a disastrous mistake that Israel should never make again. I think Israel could have gotten to a point of peace by showing power and not by capitulating. That's what Israel did. Israel capitulated. And you want to argue it worked with Egypt? I don't think it worked. I think America bribing Egypt with money is what worked. I think that's the reality. Because if Israel is powerful enough to defeat Egypt, they can say, what, are you going to keep fighting us? We'll just take more of your land. And that's what you do when you fight a war, by the way. When your enemy invades you or attacks you, a way to deter them from doing so again is by conquering territory. That's how wars work. Not because you want their land per se, but because you are setting a precedent and you are telling your enemy, it is not worth fighting us. We will not only defeat you, we will take land from you. Don't fight with us. If you don't want us to take land from you, don't fight us. Like, this is, what do you think the Ottomans did? What do you think the Abbasid, the Umayyad, the British, the American Empire right now, any empire that ever existed, the Roman Empire, any empire ever, that is what they did. And they often conquered land just because they fucking felt like it. Israel's not conquering land because they feel like it. I know that's what he thinks they're doing. It is the size of fucking New Jersey. Like, we are the worst conquistadors on planet Earth.
Palestinians, because Palestinians don't have the military that Egypt has. Egypt had the largest military. Once they eliminated that, they're like, let's crush the rest of the Arabs. And they stole all that land. And all the liars in American media told me they were going to give it back. Have they ever given it back? Never. Are they planning to give it back? Never. They took 70% of Gaza. And what happened? You told me that it was self-defense. Oh, you never went back and told anyone that they actually stole it.
We also gave Gaza, with all of its resources, Israel was exporting lots of goods from Gaza. The Jews that lived in Gaza were producing, I mean, I remember getting lettuce when I was growing up in Brooklyn. Alei Katif, we were getting lettuce in supermarkets. There was all kinds of greenhouses. They left it to them. What did Hamas do? They destroyed all of it. They started shooting missiles right after they got elected. They crushed Fatah. They slaughtered. They had a civil war. Israel gave Gaza. What did they do? Because they're not happy with Gaza. So yeah, Cenk, let's take that entire part of the story out and not talk about the fact that Israel gave Gaza in a in a way to show that we were interested in peace, that we wanted them to have Gaza and stop the fighting. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen. It was a stupid decision on Israel's part. Cenk and Ana are so good at twisting everything. The one thing I'll agree throughout this video is I don't support Jewish violence against Arabs for the sake of doing so. You want to build land, you want to build, I don't call them settlements because Judea and Samaria is Jewish land, but you want to build cities, villages, towns, go ahead. Attacking Arabs for the sake of attacking them? No, I don't support that. Of course not.
Has a single cable news anchor told the American people that 70% of Gaza has been stolen by Israel, and they brag about it. It's not like we don't know it. But wait, now I'm going to prove it to you, okay? So as Anna told you, tons of people have been killed in the West Bank. In fact, since October 7th, about as many people have been killed in the West Bank as were killed by Hamas inside Israel on October 7th. In fact, more civilians have been killed in the West Bank than were killed on October 7th. And 7 times as many children have been killed inside the West Bank than October 7th. Now, you saw it with your own eyes and ears. Mainstream media, what did they say about October 7th? The worst thing since the Holocaust. A catastrophe of epic proportions. And that's fair. It was terrible, all those people who died, and 36 kids were killed. Terrible. We totally agree. So now, obviously, the same is true of 235 kids being killed, and there's more civilians being killed in the West Bank that never attacked Israel. Nope.
Of course they attack Israel. So much terrorism has come from the so-called West Bank. And this idea that numbers in war or conflict make you more or less right is the most asinine idea. This idea that war needs proportionality in terms of death count on the enemy's side has never existed in any point in war. Well, you killed 50 of mine, so I'm only allowed to kill 50 of yours. War in general is a horrible thing, but the goal of war is to defeat your enemy. To defeat your enemy by removing its capability to defeat you. That is the goal of war. The goal of war is not tit for tat. Oh, well, you killed 10 today, so I can kill 10 too. That's not the goal of a war. It's nuts that this is even a concept.
Not as bad as not the worst thing that's happened since the Holocaust, not the worst thing at all. In fact, not even noted. Have you seen it on cable news? Have you seen it covered in mainstream media? Zero. And what does that tell you? That tells you they're not doing the news. If you were objectively doing the news, you would be horrified by both of those events. And one was in response to a 58-year occupation. The other is in response to, I want your land, so I'm going to murder you and take it. But our media goes, no, the Palestinian lives are worthless. We're not going to cover it. We don't even think it's a news story that Israel has slaughtered these civilians and these children. Not a news story, because they're only Palestinians. They're only Christians and Muslims. Their lives don't count. Only Israeli lives count. That is an indisputable fact, and you all saw it. You all saw it with your own eyes. It doesn't matter how much the media lies to you. So if you care about Palestinian lives, you're an anti-Semite and you should be destroyed, right? Right, media? You see how sick they are? You see how much they lie to you? It is I'm guys, I have the zeal of the converted because I didn't.
So they're not getting attacked. 21% not getting attacked in the streets. They own businesses, doctors, lawyers. The Supreme Court judge. They always talk about putting Ehud Olmert, a previous prime minister, in jail. They serve in the military. They are in the Knesset. Israel, the Jewish people do not have a problem with non-Jewish people as a whole. Absolutely, I can say with confidence that well over 90% of Jewish people inside and outside of Israel do not have a problem with human beings that are not Jewish for the sake of them not being Jewish. Jewish people have a problem with people that want to kill them because they are Jews. And Cenk if Cenk heard me say this, he's going to, victim. The issue here is that millions of Muslims around the world have a problem with Jews ruling the land because they are worried that the prophecy of Judaism is going to come true and it is going to mess with or dysregulate may not be the right word. It will destroy their narrative. They cannot allow for what we want to come true to come true. It's a religious battle. It is an age-old conflict and religious war. That is what it is. I wish people understood this, because if people understood this, we would actually be able to come to resolutions. Because the only way that this war in the Middle East ends, the war between Israel and its enemies ends, is when Israel is powerful to the point that its enemies understand that it's not worth fighting. What Israel also has to do is Israel has to stop placating and playing stupid games like offering these stupid agreements. It sounds like Israel finally understands this, but the reason why Israel is in an 80-year conflict is because up until October 7th, we didn't seem to get it. And unfortunately, as a result of that, both sides have suffered. That needs to change. What Cenk doesn't realize is, as sloppy as this is the only time where we are actually moving toward a long-lasting peace. Because all that needs to happen for this peace to happen are two things. Israel must be one state. Gaza and Judea and Samaria must be part of Israel proper. And Israel's enemies need to understand the reality that this is a Jewish-ruled country and it will remain so. These two things must happen. If these two things do not happen, there will never be a chance in hell that peace will ever happen. Period. End of story.
Because I'm past 50. We grew up thinking that was real news. We got fed nothing but Israeli propaganda our whole lives so they could take more land and kill more Palestinians and Lebanese and Persians and Syrians. I can't be more disgusted by our media and our politicians that actively steal our money to support these terrorists.
Yeah, and when the Arabs fight back because their own have been slaughtered by the Israelis, they're demonized as terrorists.
If the Arabs weren't fighting the Jews, they'd be fighting each other. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? The Arabs have done far worse to each other than the Jews have ever done to them, by light years. It's all. I mean, you can Google it. It's all of death count, the kind of wars, the civil wars, the atrocities that Arabs have committed, Muslims have committed to other Muslims. It doesn't even remotely come close. Ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed that reaction video of this TYT video. Of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to like the video, leave your comments, follow me at Rafi the Realtor for all of your real estate needs. Would be a pleasure to assist you. As far as supporting the channel, you can do so via the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. And I hope you will tune in to the next video. Peace.